Okay, so what we're doing now is we're exploring a special subset of tools in Photoshop that are vector, have special characteristics and properties. Let's go ahead and start working with those. So here I have a blank canvas. And what we're looking at are the vector tools. So what are the vector tools? Well, that's the type tool. We spent a little bit of time understanding how to deploy and use the type tool. We have the path selection and direct selection tool. Let me throw this away. We have our shapes, rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, line tool, and then I can actually call down a bunch of custom shapes. So these tools behave a bit differently from all the other tools in Photoshop. And when I deploy them, they make vector shapes. So vector shapes are comprised of lines and nodes and are resolution independent. Of course, if I create a document and the document is 300 dpi, then the vector shapes inside of that document are going to be 300 dpi. But the idea is that the shapes themselves are resolution independent. And I can use these to do a lot of different types of precision drawing. So let's deploy a vector shape. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. And the first option up here is the type of deploy I want to do. I can deploy a shape, a path, or a pixel. Let's start with shape. Shape is probably the one you're going to use the most. So I'm going to choose a shape, and I'm going to just click and drag the rectangle down. And so now I've got this shape on the screen with a clean, crisp edge that is a vector shape. Notice that the next two options are the fill color. I can choose a fill color. And or a stroke color. I can choose a stroke color, and I can choose the thickness of the stroke, and I can choose the quality of the stroke, and I can do a lot of different things with these. For instance, if you're doing some sort of layout, you can trap a photograph into that particular shape. So let's do that. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to choose Open Recent, and I'm going to grab that white clouds picture, and I'm going to choose Select All, Edit Copy. I'm going to click on my empty canvas, and I'm going to paste, Control V, paste that on top. And now I'm going to use a clipping path to clip it. I can right click and choose Create Clipping Mask, and I've clipped that photograph into that vector shape. So I can do this to create some very interesting borders and portraits for my image. I can go back down to the bottom layer, and I could add some a bevel and emboss, right? I could go down and even add a drop shadow. And now I've got this photograph trapped inside of this very beautiful a boundary or border. I'm going to throw the picture away, and I'm going to disable the effects. And let's go back to working with the properties of the shape here. So one, I have a properties for the shape, and it's relegated to the layer, and I can change the color of the fill or stroke at whim. And I can also change the size of the shape by typing in a numeric, or I can click on the shape and just transform it. If I want to transform it, I can go to Edit, apply Free Transform. The handles pop up over the shape, and I can grab it and transform it. And we click the Commit button. So these tools are important, and you can use them for doing different things. They may be more important to those of you who are interested in doing design work than those who are doing straight photography or illustration. Now, what else can I do? Well, the second box is down here. X and Y are X and Y coordinates. So for instance, let's say I wanted this to be in the top left corner. I could type 0 for X and 0 for Y, and you'll see that that object is now in top and left X and Y coordinate on the screen. Now, I can do other things with this as well. One is that I can manipulate it with the direct selection tool. So I come down, I click on the direct selection tool, and so the whole selection tool, the black selection tool, allows me to select complete or whole shapes. The direct selection tool allows me to select individual nodes. So I'm going to trap that node in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see that I can now manipulate it. This operation will turn a live shape into a regular path. Continue, I'll say yes. And so what I've done here is I've converted this to a shape path, and now I can edit it and manipulate it. And so the idea is that I can, under many circumstances, do a lot of different things with these. Now, what else can I do with this shape on the screen, with the shape tool, is that I can combine other shapes with it. So if you come up here and you look at this box here, you'll see that there's new layer, combine layers, subtract front shape, intersect shape areas, and exclude overlapping shapes. So by default, it's going to make a new shape on a new layer. So let's say I grab the ellipse tool and I draw an ellipse. Well, that ellipse appeared on another layer, and I may want that. Maybe I don't. I'm going to throw that away. And what I want to do is, instead of making it on a new layer, I want to put it on the layer here with the artwork I already have. So I'm going to go and choose Combine Shapes, and then draw the circle. And you'll see that that circle is being combined with the square. And the cool thing is that I can manipulate them separately from one another, and I can edit them separately. So I can combine shapes. I can also subtract. So let's say I go up, I'm going to deselect everything on the screen. I'm going to go up and choose, let me select my shape. Then I'll go up and I'll select subtract from shape, and I'll draw another circle, and you'll see that that is going to, oh, see it drew it on the top layer. Let's do it again. Sometimes it's hard to get it to do exactly what you want. And so as you can see here, what we've done is we've subtracted from the shape and made an interesting shape. And I can do things with this. I can trap images or text in there. I can apply layer styles to them, and I can make interesting shapes and design with them in Photoshop. Now, let's look at some of the other options for this particular tool. I'm going to throw this stuff away. Make a new layer, grab my shape tool, and this time I'm going to make a path. So I'm going to click, drag, and create a path. So I want to pull up the Paths palette. Let's go to Window and choose Paths. So what is a path? This is called a work path. And the idea of a work path is that it hovers above whichever layer is currently active, and then I can apply things to this path. I can actually take a shape and trap it within a path, and I can save a selection as a path. I'm going to show you how to do that in a few seconds, but I can apply something to this path. So the path is a work path, and I can turn it on and off by clicking down underneath or clicking to activate it. I can take the path starting from the left, and I go over I can load the path as a selection, so I can convert that path into a selection. And I can also convert a selection into a path. I'm going to go to Select and Deselect. So I could do something with this path. Let's say I go up to the tab here, and one of the things I could do, we already looked at making a selection, I could fill the path. So I could fill it with foreground color, background color, or color. And I filled that path. Now, the path is hovering above the layer, but the layer is filled, and the layer is filled with a raster element. So I'm going to undo that. And let's look at what else I can do with that path. With the path active, and click here, and I can stroke the path. And I can stroke it with a number of different tools. Let's say I want to stroke with the brush. It's going to stroke it with whatever color is currently in that foreground swatch. Click OK. And I've used that to make a path. So I can use these paths to do different types of work. And the next exercise, I'll show you how to convert a selection into a path. The idea, it used to be more important when the only way to move between, say, Illustrator and Photoshop, if I wanted to make a complex knockout, was with a path. Now I can do that much more easily. I can actually export shapes, Photoshop documents directly from Photoshop into Illustrator or InDesign, and it will respect to transparency that's inherent inside that document if it is created with such. But the paths can still be very useful for various types of operations. So as we learned earlier, you can save a selection. Well, I can also, instead of saving it as a selection, save a selection as a work path. So let's look at that in the next video.